So if you just got your Galaxy S24, today we're gonna cover some of the best tips and tricks. I've got the S24 Plus here, but these are gonna work on the regular S24 and the Ultra as well. You'll notice if you tap once, you have the always on display. Tap twice to get to your lock screen. If you tap right on the clock, you'll notice you have some widgets down here below. If you swipe down, you can go into settings. It's got several different things that you can turn on. You can add and subtract as you like, or you can reorder those as well. If you go into settings, under lock screen and AOD, you can access those same settings there. You can also get to the lock screen settings, pinching and holding the home screen, or just tap and hold. Tap on wallpaper and style, and there on the left is your lock screen, where there's just a ton of different stuff that you can modify and resize things as well. Also lets you change the font style for the clock as well. You can also add widgets right below the clock. You can add your contact information in case you lose this. Hopefully somebody honest finds your phone and they'll give you a call. You can also change the icons down here in the corners to pretty much any app that you want. And then just hit done. One thing you may want to change is for the always on display, under when to show, you've got the option of auto, always, tap to show, as scheduled, and for new notifications. Keep in mind that if you go to auto or always, those could also run the battery down a little bit more. Just sort of personal preference. You can also decide if you want the wallpaper to show up for the always on display as well. Nice thing is on the lock screen, you can still access the edge panel over here. If you want to get to certain apps right from the lock screen, just choose your app and unlock it, and it goes right to that app. If you go into settings under advanced features, if you go down to where it says side button, if you double press the power button, it's going to launch the camera. But if you currently press and hold, it brings up Bixby. For me, I prefer power off menu. Also under advanced features, you've got motions and gestures. Most of these are on by default. The one that isn't is lift awake. You might want to turn that one on. It's kind of nice if you just pick your phone up and you don't have to tap the screen to see if you have any new notifications. But you also have double tap to turn on and off the screen, which is pretty nice to have. And you also have palm swipe to capture, which is nice to have if you want to do a screenshot. The other thing you may want to change is how you have to swipe down twice to get to all of your information up in the notification shade. If you tap the little pencil, under quick settings, instant access, if you turn that on, then you can just swipe from the corner to get to all of your shortcuts. Also, if you don't use device control and media output, you can also turn that off right here by just choosing don't show. If you tap the little pencil and hit edit over here on the right, personally, I would add a couple of these shortcuts down here, like Dolby Atmos and Extra Dim. There's probably a couple others that you might want to add as well. That way it just makes it a little bit easier to access some of those. It also is going to let you adjust what shortcuts you see if you just swipe down once by tapping the little pencil and then choose Edit here on the left, and then picking which shortcuts you want up there. You can actually create your own wallpaper on here as well. If you go under Wallpaper and Style, change wallpapers. Under Creative, you'll see Generative. There's a couple examples that you can pick from. Or you can create something new by choosing each of these categories. Choose your object and colors, and then just hit Generate. And you'll see here it gives you different options to choose from. Now for me, I'm switching to this phone from a Pixel phone. So there's a couple things that I changed on this. Could be personal preference for you, but I'll just show you those real quick. First thing I like to do is change the order of the buttons at the bottom. If you go into the settings, under search, start typing NAV, you'll see navigation bar. And here you've got swipe gestures or buttons. If you tap on more options, you can decide which order the buttons are in. Also on the home screen, you can now swipe from the corners to get to the Google Assistant. If you tap and hold, it's going to bring up the Google search bar. You can also now circle something on the screen to do a search for as well. And it'll give you more information on that object you circled. And now if you just tap and hold on the home button, you can just tap on any image and it does a search for whatever object is in that photo. Now, as far as the keyboard goes, I would go into settings. Under layout, I would turn on number keys, so it's a little easier to get to the numbers. Or is what I like to do is go to the Play Store and search for Gboard and install that keyboard instead of the default Samsung one. Then if you turn on Gboard, you can choose that as the default keyboard. If you go into Settings, Preferences, you can turn on the number row right there. And again, just makes it a little easier to get to the numbers. Also, when you go to all of your apps, if you tap the three little dots up in the corner, you can actually sort all of your apps so that they're in alphabetical order. That way they're just a little bit easier to find, instead of always swiping around trying to find them. And then probably the easiest way to find stuff is just type in the search bar as well. If you plan on keeping this for the 7 years that this is getting software updates, you might want to go into battery and turn on battery protection. It gives you three different options: basic, adaptive, and maximum. Maximum makes it so it only goes up to 80%. I'm not sure if I would do that one. If you keep it on basic, it'll only go up to 95%. The one I would probably try is adaptive, where it's going to go off of your sleep schedule. So it's going to maximize your battery life a little bit better, depending on which one you choose. There's also a couple other things you may want to change under display settings. For me, I like to turn off adaptive brightness. Then I can control how bright the screen is at all times, instead of it constantly going dim or brighter. You also have the option of 60 Hz or 120 Hz. If you want a little better battery life, you might want to go with 60 Hz. But if you want things to be a little smoother, I would go with adaptive. Just keep in mind it might make the battery life just a little worse. Same thing with screen resolution. By default, it's on Full HD Plus. If you want things to look a little better, you could go to Quad HD Plus. But again, it might affect the battery life a little bit. So for me, I'll probably just leave it on the default setting. At least they give you that option though. You also may want to change font size and style, depending on how large you want the text to be. Just keep in mind that the larger text that you go, sometimes it cut things off or make it stack kind of funny. Probably wouldn't go much further than somewhere in the middle. You've also got some options here as far as font style. I'm okay with the default, but you've got other options to choose from. One other thing you may want to change is in the camera app. If you want higher resolution, you'll see up here at the top, you got the option of 12 or 50 megapixels. Same thing with video. If you just tap up here at the top, you've got 8K at 30 frames per second, 4K at 30 or 60, and so on. So lots of different options here as far as resolution for photos and video. Another thing that's kind of nice is if you're editing photos, if you tap on the little four circles, you can do object eraser and actually tap on something in the photo and it lets you delete it. This is going to be pretty familiar if you're used to Pixel phones. Definitely comes in handy every now and then. It also lets you select something in the photo. You can just move it around in the photo as you like, and then modify it to your liking. It's not perfect, but it is pretty cool to be able to modify photos without going to a computer. So hopefully this gave you a few things to try out on your new Galaxy S24 series. So if you've made it this far into the video, you may want to say thanks by subscribing, and don't forget to give a thumbs up if this video was helpful. This is Brian from Fishbee Productions. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.